All right. Welcome to the Baptist Reformation for a special episode. This isn't really a planned thing. I'm trying to make sure everything's connected. I'm trying to do like the live stream on Facebook while I also record it so I can put it on our YouTube channel, the Baptist Reformation YouTube channel, which, by the way, if you have not checked out the Baptist Reformation YouTube channel, you should get over there and check it out right now. It's just youtube.com, obviously, and then search the Baptist Reformation, and then maybe you'll find it on like the 15,000th page there, because we don't have hardly any subscribers, but that's hopefully going to change with your guys' support. So please go subscribe to our YouTube page. Anyways, I want to talk about gun control. Obviously, it's a hot topic on Facebook, and something good to talk about. It catches attention. It catches a lot of people's attention. It seems like people really get fired up about, gun issues or issues having to do with violence, especially after an instance of violence has taken place, as it just has about a week ago or so now. So, this is not to demean the most recent situation, the mass shooting in Florida, at all. But I think the way that a lot of people are talking about it is nearsighted. I think it's a myopic view of the situation. I think to focus on gun control is to totally miss the point and to totally skip over the issues which cause something like this to cause an atrocity like this to materialize. I think when we focus on something like gun control, which involves legislating laws which presuppose law keepers, people that obey the law, right? When we're talking about legislation, to legislate something that people more often than not, criminals more often than not, obtain illegally, I think we're missing the point as far as what is the solution, what the solution is here. Now, it is overtly obvious at this point that the shooter, the Florida shooter, obtained his AR-15 legally, or at least that's what I'm reading on all of the mainstream news sites. And so, okay, at best, that's an exception to the rule. But to say that we need to legislate guns, to say that we need to make illegal like AR-15s, we need to make those illegal, we need to restrict those in some way, shape, or form, is just to totally miss the point, and I'll share why. Okay, just because someone legally purchases a gun and then goes and commits a crime doesn't mean what the tool that they purchased to commit the crime should be made illegal necessarily. Okay, if we thought that way about everything, we would be doing ridiculous things. Knife crime in the UK, for instance, is up in 2016, 2017. So, the UK is not going to go around, the United Kingdom, the government, or the European Union is not going to go around trying to ban knives. It's just so ridiculous to think that way. Rather, we need to find out what the origins of this kind of wickedness is. Why are people doing this now? I mean, guns have been available to the American people for years. And I mean, there's several who have come out and said, look, we used to go to high school with guns, bring our guns to school, and nobody thought a thing of it. The 1950s, 1960s, nobody cared. Why? Because nobody thought twice about, nobody was thinking about shooting innocent people. I mean, it just wasn't something that was often thought about. And so the issues, ultimately, the issue, I think, boils down to it not being the gun. The issue is something that's societal. It's something that addresses human behavior before it addresses the tools that are involved in committing a crime like this. So that's why I wanted to talk about this. There's some obvious problems with gun control. One that I've already alluded to is that people who keep the law, people who want to be law-abiding citizens, are going to more often than not follow the law. People who want to break the law, people who want to commit murder, are not shy of breaking the law. They will break the law in whatever ways that they can in order to commit their crimes. So when you have someone who's going to break the law in the sense of murdering someone else, they're surely not going to care about gun restrictions, and they're going to get their guns some other way. There's already so many guns circulating throughout the U.S. at this point. If you wanted to legislate any heavy gun control, you'd have to have some sort of collection period where you'd actually have to ask people to come in and drop off their guns, like an amnesty period, and then you'd have to make guns illegal. Those guns illegal for anybody to own them. It would, be the case that you'd almost have to grandfather. You wouldn't be able to grandfather anyone in. There's so many arms out there that it's just ridiculous to think of doing something like that. Moreover, there's import options. I mean, you have people importing humans. In the last 8 years, 31,000 human beings have been imported, so to speak, as far as human trafficking is concerned, have been imported into the United States. And that's not counting illegal immigration. The border from Mexico to the U.S. Is ran by what we call coyotes, and they will work hard to drive people from Mexico to the United States. And so if they can import a person or a human being in a car the size of a Chevy, Sonic, all the way up to vehicles like an 18-wheeler trailer towing truck, then obviously they're going to be able to import guns. It's not a problem, especially with the proliferation of the cartel in South America and Middle America or Mexico. So to think that gun restrictions in the United States is going to somehow stop criminals from committing murder is just ridiculous. And it's been proven actually that it will not. Gun restrictions will not prevent gun incidents. It'll actually make them worse. At least that's kind of the track record that we're seeing. People will cite statistics like the Australian thing where they made imposed their gun laws, and then after that they saw a drop in crime. Well, actually there was already a drop in crime. There was a trend towards a drop in crime in Australia before that gun law was even enacted, and so of course they continued to see gun violence drop because they were already on that trend before the laws were enacted. We could look at statistics such as the firearm homicide rate in the UK. And when you're talking about the firearm homicide rate in the UK, you're looking at an increase in between the 2001 and 2003 time frame, and that's after their handgun ban in 1997. So you see a firearm homicide rate increase after the handgun ban was instituted in 1997. Okay, that's an increase, and it's a substantial increase from their gun ban on. There are other things that we need to look at here. When you're talking about death rates, okay, we can look at death rates, mass public shootings. When we look at mass shootings, Obama I think made the ridiculous claim during his administration that that these mass shootings just don't happen in other countries, right? And thinking about European countries, especially that have stricter gun laws, what are we to think about a statement like that from Obama? Well, the fact of the matter is that Norway, Serbia, France, Macedonia, Albania, Slovakia, Switzerland, Finland, Belgium, and the Czech Republic all have higher mass public shootings or higher annual death rates from mass public shootings than the U.S., okay, from 2009 to 2015. So the U.S. is the 11th on the list when compared to European countries. The frequency of mass public shootings comparing European countries to the U.S. and Canada from January 2009 to December 2015, the U.S. is in the 12th spot. So over the U.S., or in front of the U.S., I guess, in the race for the frequency of mass public shootings is Macedonia, Albania, Serbia, Switzerland, Norway, Slovakia, Finland, Belgium, Austria, Czech Republic, and France. And these are all per capita numbers. Now, you can check crimeresearch.org. It's a statistics think tank, and they have all the statistics there for you. It's peer-reviewed. There's a board. Okay, it's trustworthy. It's just that the liberals don't like those statistics, so you don't hear about them very often. Anyways, uh, so gun legislature doesn't do anything. I mean, I guess statistically speaking, to deter criminals from what they do as criminals, and that is commit crime. They don't mind, breaking a gun law so that they can commit a bigger crime than that. That just would make no sense. It's absurd to think, and I almost think people actually think this sometimes, like, a mass murderer wants to commit a mass murder and then stops and says, no, I can't do that because of this gun law. That's ridiculous. There are so many easy ways to get a hold of guns that don't involve legally purchasing them from a place like Bass Pro or Academy Sports or Shields or, a place like that. You don't have to go to those places to buy a gun. You can get them from friends. You can get them from people who are dealing them on the black market. It's very, very easy. It's not that hard, and it wouldn't be that hard with stricter gun laws imposed. Anyways, there is also a senator. I wish I could find that article now, who came out and said, there was already a gun law in place in Florida that Nicholas Cruz violated in order to commit his crime, and that is that you're not allowed to bring a gun into a public structure or public property like a school. So he broke that gun law, and that's just a good example of how criminals think. They don't care about gun laws, and if you think that your gun laws are going to make it harder for people like Nicholas Cruz to get a gun, you're sorely mistaken. We can look at cities who have tried this in isolated instances throughout the United States. And you can think of Chicago. I have friends that live there. They nickname it Chirac. And, gun violence in Chicago is just crazy. We can think of New York City. We can think of L.A. We can think of San Diego. Gun violence is rampant. But then we could go to a place like Kansas City, my hometown, or we could go to other cities that have less gun regulations. We go to the state of Florida, actually, ironically, but statistically, yes, we can go to the state of Florida, and there are less instances of gun violence. So let's kind of slow this down and talk about the more qualified examples of gun control. Well, we just want to, nobody has a use for an assault rifle, right? Let's just make assault rifles illegal because nobody needs an assault rifle. The reason that people use assault rifles to commit crimes like they do is because they are marketed as assault weapons. Okay, so people think assault weapon, I'll use that for my assault. Well, there are many different guns that aren't marketed as assault weapons that you could use for mass killings, a mass killing spree. You could use pistols with extended magazines and get off just about as many rounds as you could with an AR-4 or a AR-15. I was gonna say I mixed up M4 and AR. The trigger pull is almost exactly the same, and the civilian versions of the AR-15 that you can buy do not have 3-shot bursts. They're all single shot. Even if you did buy one with 3-shot bursts, somehow you're still not shooting any faster than you could pull the trigger if you have a trained finger. Okay, so and the same is true with any type of, especially any type of modern handgun. The trigger pull is almost exactly the same. You can get off just as many rounds. If you have multiple magazines, multiple extended magazines for your pistol, you're going to get off almost just as many rounds as you could with something like an AR-15. Now, when so when you move to just make AR-15s unavailable, you still have other forms of weaponry available that will be used. I'm telling you, these people will use those things, and so it's going to come down to where people are then using pistols or hunting rifles or something like that, or shotguns, and then people are going to start crying for gun control on those things, right? Well, then it's a slippery slope. We're going to get down to the point where we're doing what the UK has done. We're going to outlaw handguns, and then we're going to have higher firearm homicide rates, because people know that a disarmed household is an easy target. A household that has no form of home protection is an easy target for the armed robber who violated a gun law, who doesn't care about the law, who is going to break into a home, hurt people, or steal a substantial amount of valuable goods. So gun laws don't make a whole lot of sense in the final analysis, just because there are other things that people are going to use to commit these crimes. And then you're going to be on the slippery slope of just making laws to prevent these things. What we need to be doing is looking at other reasons that these things occur. Everybody knows that the FBI and the police did not do their jobs. There had been multiple instances where Nicholas Cruz had the authorities called for his behavior. He was never booked. He was never taken into custody. But when someone has the authorities called on them multiple times, you would think, and when they're expelled from school for making some sort of threat, jokingly or not, you would think that person's record would have some note on it. And in this case, Nicholas Cruz's record didn't. He was able to walk into a store, buy a gun without any resistance. So there are other factors that play into why Cruz was able to get a gun. Cruz was not able to get a gun just because the gun was available on the market. There were other failures within the system that allowed Cruz to get a gun. Moreover, how did Cruz get into the school? What's the school doing to secure its premises? Obviously not enough. They had one security guard. I mean, this is something that I've heard. I'm subject to correction, and you can leave a comment if you would like. I heard there was one security guard on the opposite side of the campus of 3,000 students. Now, college campuses with that many students or less have more than one security guard, more than one armed security guard on the property. Many high schools have metal detectors, and their doors automatically lock during the day. So what were the precautions that this school is taking to prevent this kind of thing? You can't throw the onus on the availability of guns. There are other factors playing into this. If the kid had a knife and wanted to kill a bunch of people with a knife, he could have walked into the school and done it, because the school was not taking the proper precautions to protect their students. The law enforcement agencies were not doing their jobs to prevent this type of thing, in light of the fact that Cruz had some serious mental health issues, obviously. So there's other variables that play into this. We can't just say, well, get rid of guns, that's the easy way to go. Because for one, we see that doesn't work statistically. It doesn't have a good track record of working anyways. It gives the government more control when the people should have more control than the government. The government having more control is a bad idea, we see historically. You can't just automatically, without even thinking about it, say that kid was able to do that because he had an AR-15. So we need to make AR-15s harder to get a hold of. That right there is called a non sequitur. It does not follow that since the kid used an AR-15 that we need to get rid of AR-15s. There are other variables that play into this from different angles of the situation that we need to start looking at. If the school had locked its doors, if the school had more security guards, if the school had followed basic security protocol, for a structure that has 3,000 students inside of it, this would not have happened. If the law enforcement would have been able to flag something on his record because of his history, this would not have happened. Background checks catch those sort of things. In fact, I was turned down to buy a gun simply because my name matched up with somebody else's that had a questionable history. Now, they're sensitive. The background checks are actually pretty sensitive, and they're actually pretty effective. But when law enforcement's not doing their job to update someone's record, or to put two and two together, hey, this kid has had 30 some odd instances where he's had a run-in with law enforcement, or he's demonstrated some sort of mental health issue, or some sort of tendency toward violence, we need to put a red flag of some sort on his record so that he can't walk into a gun store and buy a gun. That's a failure on the part of the system. It's not because the kid had an AR-15. It goes back further than that. It goes back before he had the AR-15. What were people doing to prevent this kid from positioning himself to hurt a lot of people? He had already made threats. Remember that. Nobody did anything. And so that's the issue we have to look at right there. We can't jump straight to the gun. Because if we jump straight to the gun, we jump straight to the knife when we have the person who's wanting to commit homicide with a knife. Okay? And then you're just getting into ridiculousness. I mean, cars kill people. A person could kill someone with a butter knife. We outlaw all that stuff. You see how ridiculous this can get. Knife violence is up in the UK. From 2014-ish, 2015, the climb began for knife crime. That is the percentage of increase there is substantial. The source I'm looking at is actually The Guardian, surprisingly. And their gun violence started going up in 2014, 2015 as well. So there it is. Go to The Guardian, search, what's the title of this article? Violent crime rising in England and Wales. Police figures show. Go search that. What else? What else do I need to say here? If you're one of the ones out there arguing for gun control, I would urge you to consider that. Reconsider that desire. It's easy to react to a situation like this out of emotion, because truly a school shooting is a tragic thing. But we have to also be able to grab a hold of our heads, keep them on our shoulders, and think rationally about things before we just start giving up our rights as Americans to the federal government. It's that right there, that kind of behavior right there, that grants a lot of central power and takes a lot of proportionate power away from the people. And so we need to be careful there. I just saw a bunch of people are leaving comments. Jared, I mean, this is great. I love you. Yeah, that's true. John made the comment that, I go to seminary. I go to Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. I only go online. John's on campus because he works there. Andy attends school there. There's 2 guards on duty there at all times. And it's a pretty relatively small campus compared to other types of institutions. Ange Rom said, "I'm making too much sense. That's unfortunate." I hope not everyone. I hope nobody indicts me for that. It's good to make sense. John says we should have rocket launchers. No. He's agreeing with Jared. Okay. No, that's great. But I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said. I think it has already been said, statistically speaking, that gun bans really don't work. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys off here. It's been good talking. I didn't plan this. It wasn't scripted. I don't know what in the world I was going to say until I said it. So here it is. If you have any more comments, leave them below. This is also going to be on YouTube. God bless you guys. Have a good one.